Welcome everyone to today's Flex webinar. I'm your host, Marcus Merritt. Today our topic is shifting or pivoting your business with Flex. And what I mean by that is, as lots of you are having to adjust your business to survive under COVID, as live events are much less of a thing, we want to assist you in helping your Flex do that for you. Now, I'm not going to give you ideas on how to shift your business. Unfortunately, I don't have any answers for that. As I've said in previous things, I would recommend paying attention to Tom Stimpson, reach out to him on that sort of thing. He has a good newsletter. I am going to show that if you have figured out a way to shift your business, you need to get Flex to communicate that more clearly to your customer. Okay? And we want to make sure to help you know how to do that. With that, we're going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so I'm in my Flex system here. So the first thing on this, when companies, and I will state that overall I do think this is potentially a little bit of a belated webinar. This is something a lot of you have already done and you've already figured this out. But there are still people working on kind of doing this, and it's a thing we've seen come through support a lot, and so I want to kind of highlight this anyway, just so people are aware. So the first big thing in this, a lot of times that people are doing, is to better communicate to your customer the new specialization you have in doing virtual platforms, virtual meetings. You want to update your corporate ID, your logo, your branding, some things with that. Okay, so the first thing for that I will just show is under the main menu, System Settings, and Corporate Identities. Okay, now before this started, I added a new corporate identity that I haven't edited. I want to highlight for you that you do not have the permissions to add a corporate identity to your system. If I go down here, I'm not logged in under my support login. It will mention that can only be done by Flex support because this does increase your subscription cost. Now, I will tell you, I'm not saying that you have to do that. You could rebrand your main corporate identity. We're not trying to do this to convince you to give us more money. If that's what you want to do, I want to help show you how to be able to take advantage of this feature. Okay, and so just keep in mind that you cannot add that. But once it is added, you have the permissions to edit the data that is in there and kind of what's going on. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and just double click to go to edit, and then I can go in here. So now we're going to change this to be called Flex Virtual Solutions. Again, I'm just making this up. I don't have any of that in there, but something there. We obviously could put in updated tax ID or other information we need. Maybe you have a different website, and if not, maybe it still goes to my regular one, but you've got a updated landing page that pushes that to different options, something. I'm going to still say that this is based out of my same main headquarters in here. Now, in our logo, we still always have the option of how we post the logo, address right of logo, or we can make the address below the logo or logo only. That's still the same as normal. Okay, and then you can do some scaling in that, and we'll comment on that a little bit more. Now, the one thing in this I will state that you cannot currently update on your corporate identity in Flex 5 is I cannot upload that logo in Flex 5. It's the one thing we've got. We can do the terms and conditions, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment, but I will show that for this, I'm going to just go ahead and hit OK to save that little bit of change, and I'm going to pop over to Flex 4. And in the same way, System Settings, Corporate Identities, I'm going to go to my Flex Virtual Solutions. And in here, up at the top, I have this upload logo. You see that otherwise this is kind of the same data, but I do have this upload logo. We do not port it over to Flex 5 yet. In that, I can then go and browse. I am going to do this Flex logo blue, no transparency. Now, I'm specifically doing this as one thing I want to note, that it is important to know the report generator within Flex does not deal with transparency well. Any transparency is treated as being black, and it's going to go onto what would seem like a white piece of paper generally. So that's not usually what we want. You should do no transparency logos. Okay, so there's simple. Now this is obviously not a rebranded logo. You guys would take the time to rebrand it. I didn't take the time to update my logo for this presentation, but you can see that I can update and then upload that there for the new one in that. Note that always, if you were just choosing to update, you're like, we're only doing virtual, so we're not getting an additional corporate identity. You could go to your main one, you can clear the logo, and then upload a new one in that. You can also download the existing if you don't know where your backup file is of it, to make sure you have that on file in case the idea of you're going to switch back to that at some point. Okay, so we want to make sure to hit update. And now we'll see when I go back over to Flex 5, when I go to open it again. Yeah, so it doesn't even know the logo's there, but it is there. Okay, let's just take a quick example on this. Whoop, that's not what I want to do. Projects, quotes. We'll just grab some existing one here. Amusingly, I will think this specifically will be updated because Aaron has fixed, where's my edit header? The logo in this to be our slightly updated one, but now I have my corporate identity field. I can switch this. Let's just take a peek at looking at both of them really quick to show that we do have that difference in here. So I'm pretty sure we do. Yeah, so that's the updated one. Aaron fixed that recently. And that. And if I then go and edit my header to my other corporate identity, to my Flex Virtual Solutions, I'll show you it's the minorest thing that we just tweaked in our logo recently. Don't need to do that. Go to the report. And yeah, so the key thing you'll kind of just notice in here that we just slightly cleaned up and tightened that up. That's the new one, that's the cleaner. This is the old one that I just uploaded. You also see that in this one, we have it set to have the address information in here onto the right, though I didn't put anything in, so it just fills in kind of this blank info. And on this one, we have no address. So we can see the clear thing of those two different corporate IDs and the two different logos, okay? With that, the next thing I want to highlight, and I want to take a minute to focus on talking about this, because this could be also just anybody else needs to do an update, is that a lot of times with adding a separate corporate identity or rebranding yourselves, you've had to update your terms and conditions. I think also a lot of people have had to update their terms and conditions because they've got to do more about getting more money up front because everybody's cash poor, okay? And so in that is something you have all the rights to do, but it can be a little more complicated. So I have here my just, fake made up example terms and conditions. In this, just something I grabbed off the internet, is very inaccurate for what it would be for this, but something in here. So the one first thing is that in Flex, it needs to be an RTF, a rich type format document. Okay, but a full word processor like Office here, it creates very large, bulky RTF documents with lots of extra code that Flex is not happy with. There's also, on top of being RTF, there is a file size limit for it. Okay, so we need to convert it to the RTF from a simpler text software. So I'm on a Windows machine. My preferred for this is WordPad. Comes with Windows. It's a very simple thing, but it does what I need it to do. I will say my current knowledge of the other staff, most of the other staff at Flex uses Macs. Their preferred is a software called TextMate. Not the text edit that comes with the Mac OS, but TextMate. It is a free software that you can download. and it does a better job at this, is my current understanding. I'm going to demo this under WordPad because that's what is the best for me on my Windows machine. So the first is I want to take the document that either my management gave me, my lawyers gave me, whatever there. I still want it to be a text document, not a PDF, is preferred. Okay, I'm going to not open it with the other thing. I want to open it in my regular word processor. I want to copy all of the, I want to grab all of the text, copy it, and take it over to WordPad and paste it. Okay, that helps to make it so that any code and things that Microsoft Office might have put in there doesn't transfer over. I'm just getting the text. I am still getting size, bold, things like that, but I'm not getting any other under the hood things. Okay, in that. Then once I do, I want to take and save this as, when I go here, it's going to go to open it, and I want to make sure this is a rich text format, an RTF document. Okay, we're going to put this on my desktop, and I'm just going to call this my example TNC. Okay, but I don't want it to be this docx. It needs to stay as the RTF. Okay, in there. Then once I've done that, I should, with WordPad or TextMate, I should be able to go to this new corporate identity and go to say to load my RTF document. And of course, it's going to be this one here that we see as the rich text format. Enter there, say okay. So with this, I want to remind that the terms and conditions is designed to go generally with our default terms and conditions paperwork. We saw that in my example, there weren't any fields for who the client is, who's the vendor, what's the details on it, because those come in with the report. We just want the text of the terms to be part of that. So we see here, if I run my default terms and conditions, and it should be on my new corporate ID, then we will see that I have my header here for the name of the job, the dates. If I had put client or venue or any of that information, that would all be recapped in here, but then it pulled all of my information in that document, and then it finalizes with these signatures in here down at the bottom. Now, if you want some small changes to those bits of information, there is some ways to change that through custom reporting. We've talked about that a little bit in the past. I don't want to get into that. Now, in this one, everything worked and it went just fine. But I want to comment that sometimes, and it can happen with either of the softwares that I mentioned, it happens more frequently in other softwares. And so I want to show that sometimes it will happen where it does not want to work that way. So I'm actually going to open this other software that I have previously also used. This is a free simple text editor I got online called Nextpad. I forgot to pre-open. And the same way, it's a simple text editor, and I can take and paste my same text into here. Okay. Now, you should be using WordPad, but I just want to highlight something that if you see problems, this might be relative to it. Okay. And so I want to make this note. Now, note, if you do the WordPad way, the way I showed, and you have problems, you are welcome to just come to Flex Support and reach out to support@flexrentalsolutions.com, and we will assist you. But if you're one of those more robust people that are like, I can figure this out because it isn't that hard, I want to show you how to do this. Okay. So in this one, again, I'm going to do save as. I want to, again, make sure this is a RTF document. I'm going to select this, but then just change it to be 2. So in this, I know on this one, it will not work, okay? And I'm going to show you why. For this, you would need an additional software. There are a couple different ones. This, you need a code editing software, very simple code editing software, and there are multiple free ones. Internally at here, a couple main things we use, both of these are available for both Windows and Mac, is a software called Brackets or a software called Atom, it's atom.io for that. They're both available on both. I use Brackets, so I'm going to take and open this file with Brackets. So we'll see by being a code editor, it doesn't take the information of how the format was to just display it to us like a regular word processor does, but instead it shows us the code that is making it work that way. Okay, so we see instead there's what code is going on underneath to tell it what font style it's supposed to be, what sizes they're supposed to be, what color, etc., how all the paragraphing works. Okay, you don't need to understand the vast majority of this. Okay, you don't need to. The key thing I want to show is that right at the beginning, the common thing that will happen is it's going to try to set a backup font type that Flex does not accept. This one is specifically this Sego UI. So all I have to do on this is grab that little section to say I want from the bracket to the bracket of Sego UI, delete that, save it back into my existing file, and now I can upload that and that will work. Okay. Again, I want to highlight my WordPad one didn't put a font type that was an issue. That's why I recommend it. Other software may do it. If you have issues, looking at that can help. But as always, you can come straight to support@flexrentalsolutions.com and we can assist with that if the base one did not work. Okay. So that's just want to highlight there. So that's kind of what you would need to do to either update your existing corporate identity or update a new one that you choose to also operate under, okay, in those. And as I showed, most of that is available in Flex 5, other than that the logo update. I don't have an exact timeline on when that will be, but sooner. One of the next key things that I want to highlight in this is that a lot of times people, now that you're doing more virtual service, there's a lot less gear involved and more service involved, okay? And so you're more inclined to do a lot more of your quoting out of these services sections. But maybe in that, you want to be really explicit with it. You don't want to use these default just labor and services. You want to make sure really clear that these are web services or virtual production or some other kind of name. So I want to show you how to add a new resource type into your system and to make sure it has the proper attributes for what you want it to operate, okay? So for that, we do currently have to go back to Flex 4. That's kind of a system setting thing. That will be one of the later things to be ported over. So system settings and resource types, okay? In here, you'll see all of the resource types that are defaulted in your system. And you'll notice here at the top, these are the contact-based ones. Contacts are still resources, and they have different ones. Then your equipment ones in the middle. Near the end are the services, and then there are some kind of relative to maintenance repair down at the bottom, okay? Now, I will tell you, for me, my preference on this is to first look and go, which one of these is very similar to what I'm trying to do? Maybe I'm still thinking of it as service, but I'm just trying to get some detail to it, okay? And so I'm going to go here to the service, because I want to show, if I open this up, there's a lot of fields in here, and it may seem a little bit overwhelming. What I like to do is find one that I'm like, this should be pretty much like service. I just want it to be named differently than just generic service. So what I can do is click here and add a child. And when I add a child, it will copy all of my settings within here to match, and then I can maybe tweak them, but I don't have to figure all of them out on my own. I can at least get a good baseline type. So in this, we're just going to say we want to call this virtual production, if I can spell. Again, you can name this whatever you want. You could just use the existing ones, but I want to show if you decide to do that. Now we see here right now it says parent resource, and I'm going to show you how to move that later. Now you can keep resource types as children. That can be fine. But in this, we're going to move it out to be a standalone, not a child. Okay. This availability mode is generally either for inventory or for contacts where you're using crew scheduling. So it should be none in this example. The applicable resource class is where is it going to show up, in the contacts, in the inventory, or down in our services. So again, that is correct. Is this an expendable? No. And note, you can only have one expendable in your system, so you pretty much don't want to do that. Obviously, it's not an employee or a note. This report code is if you're trying to pull special things for this on reporting, so otherwise you can use it blank. If you're numbering these things special, then you can put that. That's not going to be necessary. Again, why it's already blank. This is not a venue. And so we see in here right now where it says it's taxable. Now that, again, for you may not be true. We want to look at that. Discount enabled. And then here again, this is for your accounting staff. If you're doing updates to your GL accounts on that, you would do that. We don't want to get too far into that. So we see I didn't really need to change anything other than updating the names. So I can go ahead and hit save. And you'll see now that parent-child relationship. But then what I can do is grab that first column, the handle, and just drag it there. Oh, come on. And I say from show expenses, I want to move it above. And so now it's its own standalone thing, but it copied those settings from service to make that easier for me. Okay, so that's kind of my general preference in this. With that being there, I want to just pop over really quick and take a peek at this. We're going to come here and refresh. And so now we see our additional virtual productions in this. And right now there are no resource types. So is the highlight. To add a actual production thing to it, you can go right click, create service, and we could start putting in this. So we're going to say web stream production. And again, this is lots of different ways you could do this. There still might be things you have to do gear, and so you're making a virtual package. I just want to show some examples if you're trying to do more of it. It's a service and you're just keeping it under there. In this, the description is not required, but can be nice. We already put where it's going to be here, so we can go ahead and hit save. And then within this, we could then just go in and put our pricing. If we have kind of some preset pricing, both which ones are available, whether you're saying this is day rate, or these are maybe just an each, because this is a per show, or you're doing it again on some other time frame there, whatever kind of makes sense to you. And if you want to put preset pricing, or if it's different per show, that's completely up to you on that kind of information. Now, one thing I want to highlight, this is very frequent. When people add new resource types, there's a couple things you have to tweak in the system settings for everything to work. This is commonly forgotten. I remember before I worked at Flex, I commonly forgot it. Okay? So for this, again, we have to go back over to Flex 4. So the couple things here we have to do. First, even though I saw pricing models available, the system isn't going to fully think they're available on my project element like my quote unless I activate them. So for that, I have to go to System Settings, Pricing Models, and then pick whichever pricing model. So let's say I was going to do that day rate in each. Those are the ones I set. I would double click the day rate. And then in my resource type list, I would search through here and find that virtual production, select it, and hit save. Important, this save is only relative to this box, but that is important. Similarly on each, if I want that one to actually be applicable, I would go find my virtual production, turn it on, save, and then it will actually apply. Now, the next thing is we have to make sure this is a valid resource type for the documents I want to put this on. So most likely my quote or whatever you have as your main quoting document in there. So under projects, project elements, your list of project elements, in mine still the default of quote. Come on, you can do it. There it goes. It'll be so nice when these pages get ported over and we don't have to wait forever for this. Okay, almost there. Okay, so then we are going to my allowed resource types tab here. And then we see in here that I have my new resource type of virtual production that I have to change to say, yes, this is applicable, and update. If I did not do that, when I go to drag any of those items onto my list, onto my quote, they are going to error and tell me that's not an allowed resource type. Okay, so now with that, I can come back to my Flex 5. I can go to my practice quote here. I can get my one thing of WebStream production, drag it on here. We'll see that again, it knows it's called a virtual production. We see the name, it puts it in virtual production, and my different rate of day and each are applicable, so I can pick that, and then I could set my pricing for that. So those are the kind of main couple things that I feel like people are needing help with when they're looking to do some rebranding and adjusting on things there. There may be some additional things with changing in your custom reports, or we could talk about some options for things with more virtual packaging to help on your quoting for that. Again, I appreciate everybody for showing up live. Here, as always, we'll have the webinar up so you can share to other people on your team, wherever else you may need by the following Monday. For that, I think everybody has hope everybody has a great rest of the week and has a good weekend, and take care and stay safe. Thanks.